bonjour, ani, tansi, kwe wache. Nimki benoje kapisi semat namasi sistijna kazman gandodum kajanang donjaba. Hello everybody, how's everybody feeling this morning? Good. So, uh, my English name is Thielen Kignoswe. I'm Wolf Clan from Kajanong territory, also known as Wapul Island, which is just north of the Michigan border. Yeah, I keep getting mixed up between Detroit and Michigan. But today, as my mom said, I'm going to be doing the hoop dance.
Miigwech chikjamanido ojinokum. Miigwech ojimijum. Miigwech ojeka kinakiki aton ojaniniwat. I thank the Creator for this beautiful day, the sun that's shining upon us.
So I have the incredible pleasure and joy to introduce David Abram, and I'm responding to him later. But David has really opened up worlds to many of us, which would deeply resonate. He has poetically, eloquently, embodiedly written about so many areas that have really connected to what is really dear to my heart, body, mind, and soul. The Spell of the Sensuous, Becoming Animal. If you haven't read it, please do. I have used The Spell of the Sensuous, which I think came out in 1996. Is that right, David? I don't know. You might know. Yeah. I've used it for decades in my teaching graduate students. Graduate students from all over the world have really been inspired by him. He's been a catalyst for many fields that have taken up his work, from phenomenologists, curriculum theorists, arts-based researchers, architects, new materialists, poets, artists. Utney Reader has named him one of the 100th visionaries in the world, but who can count stars and who can count visionaries?
I'm an ecologist. I'm a cultural ecologist. My particular interest is the ecology of sensory perception. That is the way our senses and the activity of our senses act as a kind of glue that binds our separate nervous systems into the encompassing ecosystem. But I'm also very interested, fascinated by the ecology of language. That is, the ways in which what we say so profoundly influence what we see, or what we hear, or even taste of the earth around us. Because it seems to me that there are ways of speaking, many of them inherited in this culture from our recent elders and ancestors, ways of speaking that actually stifle and inhibit the spontaneous rapport between our bodily senses and the earthly sensuous. But I'm just as convinced that there are ways of speaking that can encourage and enhance that instinctive reciprocity between our animal body and the flesh of the land around us. Philosophy still, by and large, speaks about the world it ponders, wielding its words as though their shapes and sounds were not a part of this breathing world, as though language were meant to get at the world from outside, rather than to invoke and to vibrate the world from within its depths. The cool abstraction of our arguments, the rarefied terms, the lack of attention to the song of our sentences, or the rhythm of our phrases all make it obvious that whether or not we contest the distinction between the mind and the body, we are still speaking as disembodied intellects to other bodiless intellects. I mean, how often has it been that we read some philosopher or scholar critiquing the mind-body split so endemic within the alphabetized world of the West, railing against Monsieur Descartes' disjunction of res cogitans, or mind, from res extensa, or matter? Our philosopher carefully elucidates how every turn of thought within the mind is accompanied by minute neuronal firings within the brain, or by the precise release of specific neurotransmitters, subtly altering the electric potential of those axons and dendrites. Or perhaps she articulates the manner in which the thinker's body is always tacitly present when he is pondering any idea, the way that his thoughts never manage to spring the thinking mind free from its ensconced entanglement with his muscled limbs, or the activity of his sensory apparatus, with the ocular and tactile and olfactory receptors that bring him knowledge of the world. Or perhaps our philosopher tries to show how all of the mental categories deployed by even the most abstract thinker are inevitably derived from more basic corporeal metaphors like front and back and high and low and in and out. And hence that the theories deployed by any thinker remain rooted in our bodily experience, and so the very highfalutin capacity of the mind to posit ideas and to discursively reflect upon mathematical realities like irrational numbers, and even to seize upon and hypostatize heretofore unforeseen transcendental truths, is inextricably enmeshed in the body and should be seen as an expression of that body. Or our philosopher may insist, as an adherent of object-oriented ontology, that the human organism is simply one kind of object among a vast plurality of objects, every one of which withdraws behind the facets that it presents relationally to any other object. And so one's mind should simply be recognized as the uttermost truth of your existence that inevitably withdraws or hides itself behind this visible, tangible physicality of your presence. The mind as the hidden reality that discloses itself to others as a material body. What? I mean, okay, for sure, yes, I think I got it. You're convinced me, yes, you've convinced me that the mind is nothing other than the body, except that in order to follow your argumentation, which was framed in such abstract terminology and couched in so many abstruse and non-sensuous formulations, that in order to follow your argument, I have had to abandon and basically forget the life of my eyes and my ears and my skin, forfeiting my bodily senses in order to accompany your hyper-rational discourse on its convoluted trajectory, so that when at last, by following the circuitous path of your reasoning, I am finally convinced that the mind is nothing other than the body, I discover that I have forgotten my carnal sensations entirely and now seem even more completely cut off from my own body than I was before you started this damn demonstration. Well, that's not the way to do it. If we are trying to convince folks of the primacy and primordiality of bodily felt experience, yet we do it in such jargon-ridden, abstract, and sense-deadening terminology, then we are caught in a massive performative contradiction, one which reinscribes and reinstates the detachment and severance of the mind from the breathing body, which is how contemporary academia and the jargon-ridden world of theory unwittingly contribute to the way this goofy civilization remains so hopelessly removed from the evidence of its senses and from the sensuous life of the surrounding terrain. So much so that we casually poison the winds and the waters and cause by our lifestyles ever more species to tumble helter-skelter over the brink of the abyss into the oblivion of extinction. Thunderstorm. On a warm afternoon, new leaves creeping out of the just opened buds when the apricot trees shamelessly offer their blossoms to 1,000 bees, one notices a faint rumble in the air. It dissolves back into the incessant whirring of bees until there comes sometime later a similar trembling. The tremor is more felt than heard, a vibration noticed more by our bones than the trunks of the fruit trees than by our conscious reflections. Behind the branches, way off to the west, a darkness is gathering, a vague threat on the horizon. But now the irregular rumble once again, more audible, ominous. The rabbits are sniffing the air, hesitant. And how odd, what's become of all those bees? Now only a few stragglers are moving among the blossoms. Bird life is more evident, several wingeds swooping between the trees, expending an unusual amount of energy. Everyone here is now feeling it, the background hush that's come over the land as the clouds thicken into a too early dusk, the rabbits ducking into their digs. It's a deep quietude broken by the alarm call of a bird and a bit later by the thudding violence in the near distance, as though the sky is a skin that's stretched taut. Everyone is finding somewhere safe and hunkering down, tremulous, waiting. Then quietly, a soft breeze stirs the tips of the grasses, rippling the blades, spreading perhaps a kind of pleasure there among the green life, an eager anticipation very different from the threat vaguely sensed within one's muscles and the muscles of other animals.
As I was thinking about responding to David, I realized that I've been responding to David for decades, although you didn't know it. Because your work has so informed and inspired me, and once again, as I sit, as you talk, you animate words, you are an artist, poet, performer. The earth is breathing through you. I thank you for your courage to do this, because it has informed my own work, which has informed other people's works. And how that has really taken most shape is that as a dancer and poet and artist and scholar, I have refused to leave one at the door. I am a girl that wants it all. And what I found, I have all these notes and I haven't even looked at them yet. This is what I always do. As someone who many years ago, 30 years ago, when I started scholarship, I started reading about embodiment, which I loved. And it was so disembodied. All of the discourse on embodiment and all the discourse on dance scholarship. And I thought, where are the words that dance? How can you dance these words? Where are the words that breathe? Where is blood to ink? I see this in creation. I see it in the waves. I see it in my blood. I feel it in my body. I feel it in Eros arising in my body, in the creation, in the wind, in the weather. Where is it on the page? We're alive. We love the creation, the animals. That is where I often learn presence. So I read you these things. They're called body psalms. They kind of come to me like hiccups. Sometimes the best writing comes when you don't try to write. I often feel like I have to get out of my way, but you have to keep writing. You have to keep dancing. You have to keep living and being and doing every day. And then when it comes, you're ready, but you never know when it's going to come. Body psalm for living, longing, and being. Know there is a flow working within the vessels of your life and blood, through each artery and vein, a current all to its own. You cannot stop the life stream, only enhance its surge. Listen for the sounds inhabiting the map of your path. Let what is unseen carry you. Give into the wave of the ebb and flow of your own pulse. Who knows where your journey will lead or what you will discover? You are in a new chapter of your own autobiography, rewriting your own narrative every moment you take a breath. Let the air breathe you. Allow the mist of the unpredictable to caress your plans. Widen your embrace of what is possible in the impossible, where the process of becoming will have its way and find you once again with an open heart to touch the sky and inhabit your dreams. So when I say autobiography, and I do a lot of work in integrating autobiography or poetic, performative, embodied inquiry, which allows for the connection to the personal, to the universal, which stems from phenomenology. You never know where phenomenology went. But I never see it as only the personal, because it is always a we. The other is in the I is in the other. We are found in each other's stories. It is not just my story, it is your story. I hear other people's stories. So we need to tell our stories and know that we are found in one another's stories. And it's our presence what matters.
Now, you actually said that, I mean, philosophers and scientists have criticized this view for, well, centuries, actually. They tried to come up with alternatives. And phenomenology is one such alternative. But now you said explicitly that everything is animate. So in a way, you might well agree with James Watson saying that, well, it's all physics, all the rest is social work. So my question to you is, I mean, are you not afraid of simply undermining this anti-reductionist view in the view you have that it's all animated? That's my question.
I think it is an easy misunderstanding of animism as felt or embodied or practiced by so many of our indigenous brothers and sisters and all of our indigenous ancestors. And after all, the many place-based indigenous peoples of this planet are outrageously different in their ways of enacting, in their beliefs, in their, I mean, sometimes almost incommensurable. You can't believe they all inhabit the same world, and yet this curious commonality, this refusal to make a divide between that which is animate on the one hand and that which is inanimate on the other. The move to simply allow that everything is alive is not a move to say everything is the same. It is the opposite. The dualistic or dichotomous way of seeing the world as things that are alive and things that are inert, inanimate, no life whatsoever, hides from us the multiplicity and plural weirdness of the world. To allow or open the possibility that everything is alive, which is simply to say that everything has agency, is a way into the differences between things. It is a way into a radical, irreducible pluralism, a way to be able to feel out the differences between a coyote's way of experiencing the world and a spider's way of experiencing, or how oak trees engage, so different from aspen trees who are rhizomes and so all connected under the ground. But not just trees, not just animals, but rocks. Well, that sandstone boulder, its way of engaging the space around it, and the other rocks, and also spiders who get some shade within its flanks, is very different from that slab of granite